In the last module, we saw that we'll symbolize a simple statement, a statement that is either true or false, just in itself, using a capitalized letter, usually the first letter of an important word. We introduced our first connective, a unary connective, the tilde. It modifies one thing, whatever it's to the left of. And it says about whatever it's to the left of, that's false. Now we're going to turn our attention to binary connectives. Binary connectives talk about a relationship between the truth values of two simple statements. They say something about the world by saying these two simple statements have these truth values. Our first binary connective is the dot, and it's pretty straightforward. It just says and. Right? The dot asserts that the simple statements it connects are true. So, for example, Bill is looking forward to break, and so is his professor. This asserts two simple statements. It asserts Bill's looking forward to break. It asserts his professor is looking forward to break, and so it can be symbolized using our dot. B, Bill is looking forward to break, dot, and P, Bill's professor is looking forward to break. Next one, I teach, however, I'm still human. Now, some people might be surprised. There might be a subtle nuance, unexpected relationship there. We can't capture any of that. What we capture is that I teach is being asserted and I'm human is being asserted. So T dot H. Another one. Your test got an A, and I enjoyed grading it. Your test got an A, I enjoyed grading it. Both of these things are true. A dot E. Our next connective is the wedge. It is used to symbolize what's called disjunction, or in English. And there are two senses of or in English. There's the inclusive sense and the exclusive sense. So if I say Calvin is a dog or a mammal, we know that statement is true because Calvin could be a dog, that would make it true. Calvin could be a mammal, that would make it true. In this case, if Calvin is a dog and a mammal, that would also make it true. So inclusive or says one is true or the other is true, or both of them are true. Now, not every case of or we use in English is inclusive or. Some of them are exclusive or. And exclusive or just asserts that one of these statements is true, but not both of them. So if this one is true, not the other, or the other one is true and not this one. So imagine, right, you discover your boyfriend or girlfriend is cheating on you, and you say, look, it's either them or me. You're using exclusive or. Them or me, not both, right? Not both. So exclusive or gets used in English, but oftentimes it doesn't matter that much. So say you're on a flight, and the flight attendant comes up and says, would you like coffee or tea? And you say yes, right? Strictly speaking, the flight attendant probably meant exclusive or. Would you like coffee or tea? Not both. Right? But there's no big deal with this. Coffee or tea or both, inclusive or is fine. So philosophers, mathematicians, logicians, they have inclusive or as the default. When it's exclusive, when it matters that it's one or the other, but not both, they symbolize that a different way. So let's look at some examples. Unless I misunderstood, I looked down this tube. Okay, that's just frighteningly bad gun knowledge. All right, M or T. And in this case, all right, one is true, not both. It's this or another Wallace lecture. Now you might think to yourself like, I would literally commit suicide to avoid another Wallace lecture. But here's the ironic thing. The seventh level of hell, nothing but Wallace lecture. So S or W, S wedge W. Finally, either I should have to pass a background check or I should have to get some training about gun safety. Again, disjunction, B or G, one or the other. Personally, I would prefer both. Next, the horseshoe. Now, the horseshoe is the symbol that we use for conditional statements. Remember, a conditional statement is a relationship between two simple statements that asserts that if the antecedent is true, then the consequent is also true. If this, then that. And our horseshoe here has a specific order. It has to point this way, always on the open side, the antecedent, always on the closed side, the consequent. So it symbolizes conditional statements, statements that relate the truth of one thing to the truth of another conditionally. So here again, we have our governator as the terminator, and if it bleeds, then we can't get it. This was, of course, the first line of the Schwarzeneggerian hypothetical syllogism in Predator. All right? If it bleeds, then we can get it. It bleeds, we can kill it. All right? If B, then K. So whenever we symbolize a conditional statement, we have to identify the antecedent, put it on the right side, that is, put it on the left side of the antecedent of the horseshoe. Then we identify the consequent, put it on the right side of that horseshoe. Next one. Also a quote from Schwarzenegger. When you grow up, you'll have to drink beer. If you're grown up, then you have to drink beer. Right? So when you grow up, if this is true, then B, you have to drink beer. Antecedent on the left-hand side, open end. Consequent on the right-hand side, closed end. You can live in California only if you saw T3. Now, only if is a sort of strange locution in English, a sort of strange phrase. Because you see that if, you might think, okay, there's my antecedent. But only if is the phrase that introduces the consequent in English. So our translation here would be, whoops, if you live in California, then you saw Terminator 3. Right? And you may think to yourself, it doesn't make sense to me, Dr. Walls. Why shouldn't T be the antecedent? Well, think about what that means. Right? Total violation of current Trumpian immigration standards. Right? If you saw T3, then you have to live in California. So billions of people would have to live in California. That's not what Schwarzenegger would mean. Schwarzenegger would mean, if you live in California, then you better watch T3. Our final one, again a quote from Arnold, it'll be difficult to forget if it's hard to remember. If it's hard to remember, our antecedent here, introduced by if. Here we have a comma to suggest this is our antecedent. And difficult to forget, D, our consequent. So antecedent's always left-hand side, open end. Consequent's always right-hand side, closed end. We'll introduce our last connective and start talking about scope in our next module.